Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in again today to another episode of Scott the Scientist. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about something a bit different, but still really important. We're going to be covering safe housing. Now, if you're somebody who's conscious of how the environment affects your health, so if you're somebody with, say, multiple chemical sensitivity, you already know how critical and important safe housing is for your health and well-being. Where you live and sleep has a disproportionately large impact on your health, because where you sleep that's a time when you're supposed to rest, recover, and detoxify. And if you're still being exposed while your body is trying to rest and detoxify, then you won't be able to recover, and you can see how this can lead to a downward spiral over time. So people that are able to find safe housing and heal in that space are able to get to a point where they can go out and be exposed to lower level exposures and still be all right, because they'll be able to rest and recover in a safe living environment after the fact. Now, if you're somebody who isn't aware of any environmental sensitivities or how the environment affects your health, that's okay. Now, just because you aren't aware of that relationship doesn't mean it doesn't exist. You may be affected by things in your environment that either result in chronic symptoms, and your body can't remove those exposures from your system efficiently, or you may be exposed to many things chronically, and so you may be unaware of what's affecting you because it's difficult to discern that relationship. So I would advise that especially if you're moving, it's a really good idea to be aware and look for safe and healthy housing to get yourself in the best living situation possible. Because even if you're a totally healthy person with no chemical sensitivities whatsoever, air quality, it just affects your health in general. It's going to where you live and what you're exposed to is always going to affect your health, whether you have known chemical sensitivities or not. So if you think there's even a slight chance that the environment may affect you, then it's probably worth you trying to find a safe living environment to live in, because there's no downside to it. It could only help you. So I advocate that everyone, whether they're healthy or sick, chemical sensitivities or not, they listen and check out this video to learn how to get themselves in a better and safer place. So I'll be showing you guys some great examples of what to look for in an apartment. But before I do that, I want to go over and outline the parameters of what we want to look for and what we want to avoid. So just getting right into it, starting what we want to look for. So number one thing, look for a second or third story apartment, second or third floor. You don't want to be on the ground floor, number one, because obviously mold grows on the ground, so you're bringing yourself closer to where that mold is. Number two, like when there's a lot of pollution, can just kind of be heavy and sit closer to the ground. And I find that if you're above that, you kind of avoid a lot of that really heavy pollution. So I've never personally found a ground floor apartment to be conducive to my health. It's always been somewhere like a second or third story building. So number two, carpeting. I say this lightly. Carpeting can be really bad, right? So if it's new and it's made with a lot of toxic chemicals that are off-gassing. And number two, if it's really like thick, really thick plush carpeting, that's going to hold and trap in a lot of contaminants in the air. It can hold and trap in dust. You can have dust mites in it. So yeah, that thick carpeting is really bad. But if you have either really carpeting made out of safe material that's like short and really well worn in, it can be really good, because what it ends up doing is basically acting like a giant air filter covering your entire living space. So if you have stuff that gets in the air and contaminates the air, then all this carpeting material is going to trap any of these contaminants in the air. And as long as you like vacuum and wash your rug regularly, then you're removing all of that. So anything that gets in the air, it will stick to the carpet. You vacuum or wash it and you remove it out. And so it's a good way of like filtering out and cleaning your entire living space. So I do think carpeting can be really good. It can be bad, but I just say it as if you find the right type of carpeting, it can be good for you. And additionally, if you have carpeting, then you're avoiding being exposed directly to whatever wood varnish is on the wood of the flooring, and wood varnish can be a major problem, and it's difficult to find a safe living environment that has wood that isn't toxic whatsoever. So carpeting can really cover that up and avoid another issue. So number 3 would be a balcony or a porch, right? So if there are, if an living space doesn't work for you, or if there is, someone bringing something in that smells, or there's some exposure, you have somewhere to sleep outside, really, like in an emergency situation. But number 2, if you get anything in the mail or purchase any products, you can put them out on your balcony and let it air out before you bring it into your living space. So that's really good to have. Number 4 is near water. And I say near water loosely. What I really mean is in an open area. So you don't want to be around a lot of trees where there's a lot of shade and mold and pollen and things like that. You don't want to be around a ton of other buildings and cars, because you can get, pollution from the cars and heating elements and whatever chemicals and paint and crap is coming off other people's buildings. So really just an open area. And by the water is great for that, because where there's water, you're not getting any trees or buildings or something. So coastal air can be absolutely amazing, and I highly recommend that. And number 5, lots of natural light. So the reason natural light is good is, number 1, directly. So if you have a lot of sunlight in your living space, that's going to kill mold and bugs and things like that. But number 2, it'll also break down VOCs. So if you have a lot of chemical, like when I worked in a lab, right, we had a lot of chemicals that we kept in amber vials to protect those chemicals from light, because light would literally break them down. So it can help protect you from VOCs in your living environment too. But having natural sunlight in your living space can also be indirectly a really good sign, because if you have a lot of natural sunlight, then you probably have a lot of large windows. And if you have a lot of large windows, that'll also help you, because if you do get exposures or anything in your apartment, you can always open up all the windows and let everything in your living space air out. And so if it has a lot of windows, it'll be really easy to air it out really well. So that's a good sign. And number 6, the last thing that you're looking for is either baseboard or radiator heating. So that's good because you're just avoiding central air, which I found to be a problem. So I've never found a safe living environment that has central air. If you do have central air, you can get things like mold growing in the vents, and that's obviously not good. But also I've found if there is any exposures from, say you get the walls painted or something and you get particulates in the air, the central air, it really just circulates everything over and over and over again. And it kind of prevents that living space from airing out, because it's just like recirculating it all. So I always stay away from central air, and I stick to baseboard and radiator heating. On to things that I'm looking to avoid. So number one, ground floor, right? I already spoke about look for higher floor apartment. Um, Lots of exposed or varnished wood. So wood I found to be a problem because number one, because of wood varnish, that's the main reason. But number two, um, wood can have like a natural scent, like a natural smell, which can be bothersome to a lot of people. Number three in that is that wood can have a lot of cracks in it, and you can, if the wood starts rotting, you start to get mold growing. So there's just like so many reasons why wood is a problem. I have found safe spaces that do have wood in them, like wood flooring and wood trim. But I found the biggest problem from places that have exposed wood in the living space is the trim. So trim can usually be painted with a different type of varnish that I found to be I'm more sensitive to than just standard flooring. So if there is going to be wood flooring or exposed wood, I'm looking for at the very least the trim is painted rather than exposed wood or varnish, something like that. And number two, if there is wood flooring, you're going to want to look for wood that doesn't have a glossy finish to it all. It has to look like the surface is really, really worn off. If you have a shiny, glossy surface, then you're going to get a lot of off-gassing from whatever formaldehyde or whatever was coated on the surface. That's guaranteed to be a big problem for you. You won't be able to heal. So you must avoid these glossy wood surfaces. Number three, avoid dark, wet, moldy city areas. So not just indoors, but you're going to be affected by the air outdoors too, because all the air outdoors is going to get into your house. So if you're looking at a place in an area that looks like, for lack of a better term, icky, like just really dirty, moldy, dark area, there's probably a lot of mold in that area, and that's going to blow in through the windows and such, and that's going to affect you inside. So try to find an outdoor area that has good air quality. Number four, shared buildings. So you want to be in an environment with the least number of people possible. The more people you cram yourself against, the more potential exposures you're going to have. Number five, high traffic city areas. So pollution from cars is really, really bad. Highways are the worst. Stay away from highways. Don't ever live near a highway. Bad idea. Areas with lots of pollen and leaves. So allergies can be a major issue, but even if you don't have an allergy, it's just like more shit getting in your system. So like I said, try to look for a place in an open area. Basement door attached to a living space. So basements I've always found to be a major issue. They don't air out well. They can be full of mold, etc., etc. So if there is a basement door, try to find a place where that basement door is outside. Like you have to go outside the house to get to that basement door, because when it's connected to your living space, that air is going to come in through the door cracks. Like it's a livable problem because you could tape it off if you're allowed to, depending on, what your living situation is. But I just try to avoid that. Number 8 is gas stove. So you can have a problem with gas in your apartment. So go for an electrical heating system if you can. Avoid thick carpeting for the reason that I previously mentioned, that you can have it's harder for that carpet to off gas if it's really thick, but it also can soak in and absorb a lot of off gassing from elsewhere in your apartment, and you can have dust and dust mites and stuff growing in it. And the last one is ceramic tiles. If ceramic tiles were put in a long time ago, you're probably fine, but I would absolutely avoid a place that recently has ceramic tiles put in, because there's probably a lot of cutting involved in making those tiles, and the particulates that come off of that can be really abrasive and damaging. So I just would not live in a place that had ceramic tiles like that. And now the red flags that you absolutely immediately can't have in your living situation. It's a deal breaker to have these. There's no way around it. Just don't pick a living space with them. Number one is central air. I already said before, I've never found a place with central air to be conducive to health. Number two, wood trims. I have found a place with wood trims to be acceptable, but I have such a problem with the varnish from wood trims, and landlords will coat them with thick, nasty, heavy stuff all the time. So I just stay away from that because you can find an option with painted trims. Number three, recent paint and renovations. Obviously, you don't want off-gassing and chemicals and dust and all that stuff from a place that was recently renovated. So try to find a place that's a little bit more worn in. All the new modern stuff is garbage. It looks really pretty, but it's all super toxic to you. Number four, matte white paint. Matte white paint produces particulates of titanium dioxide in the air, which can last years and years. Super dangerous, cause of chronic fatigue syndrome and fibromyalgia. It's a major, major problem. It can have white paint, but if it has white paint, make sure that it's a glossy white, not matte white. And number five, places where you can smell varnish or must. So, if you've got when you walk in the door, you can tell whether you have MCS or not. You're going to say, oh, wow, this smells like a really musty, chemically place. Or you walk in and you say, oh, this is a nice, normal home. So pay attention to your nose. Listen to it. It's trying to tell you something important. Excellent. Now we're on to a really interesting section here where I'm going to walk you guys through some real apartment listings that we're going to discuss together and look for and identify key features that might be a concern or might look safe. And the reason we're able to do this is because when I was exposed to paint and mold and various things back in 2021, I was kind of stuck in this endless loop of moving from place to place to place. And I got really good at being able to identify what was hazardous and what was safe and what was causing my symptoms. And I've gotten to the point where I think I'm pretty good at it now, where I can even tell just from photos likely what the air quality in a place will be, because I can identify what is the source of the exposure and look out and try to avoid them. So we're going to look here on Facebook Marketplace, and I'm looking at area in New England, and I've said before that coastal air is really, really good. So we're going to focus on this area from Boston in Massachusetts through Rhode Island and then into Connecticut up until, say, New Haven, but not including those cities because obviously, really crowded city areas have a lot of pollution, and so we're going to avoid that. And we're going to just look along this coastal area. And the only parameter that I'm going to put in is we're just going to cap the price at the rent at $1,600 a month, so that we're looking for places that are affordable, because most people with chronic illnesses are struggling with finances. So we're going to look at affordable places. So I haven't seen these listings at all. We're going to look at it together for the very first time and try to go through and point out what could be safe or dangerous, and so forth. Okay, so this place looks actually reasonably okay. It has a chimney, which I would avoid, just like the soot and ash from chimneys. It's just, it doesn't do anything positive for air quality. I would avoid that. It's got baseboard heating, which is great. So this place actually doesn't look too bad. There are some trees around, but the area is relatively open. And it doesn't have matte white paint on the walls. So overall, not a bad listing. This here, so the flooring, the carpeting, this is really good carpeting. This is the kind of carpeting you want to look for. It's very, very short. You don't want something that's soft plush because stuff gets trapped in there. It can be harder to clean out. But this kind of acts as like a surface of an air filter that extends across your entire apartment. So that's going to make the air quality really good. It does look like it's in a basement area, so the ventilation is going to be really poor. So that's a major no, I would say. It's got central air, which is also a no. And if you look at this picture here, this is really interesting. So when you guys see like glare or streaks of light, there's really two things that can cause that. Number one, there could be like a smudge on the lens. But number two, there could be shit in the air that makes it so that whatever light hits that stuff that you can't visibly see in the air, it reflects off that, and so you get these streaks. Sometimes it's a streak like this, sometimes it's like a glare, but the trick is, if you see something like this from the photos, just avoid it. There's enough listings out there that you can go find something else. I would avoid places that have these streaks of light. That's a major red flag. Additionally, there's virtually no windows, so again, just ventilation is going to be awful. It looks like there's stuff in the air, and it's got central air, so overall it's no good. Oh yeah, and additionally it's got these, the wood trim is very shiny. That looks like very unsafe wood trim, so I would avoid that. Next place. So this is kind of an interesting point. It's not too bad here. This is probably this is taken in winter time. But just a general note, if you see like all the plants, first of all, you don't want too many plants around the house because you can get mold from the shade. You can get pollen when you open the windows, and you just really want as much as you can like an open area surrounding your house. But if there are plants surrounding the house, you want to make sure they look healthy. If the plants in the area aren't looking well, like if the grass is dead, the plants are dead, the shrubs are dead, sure, it could be something like a drought or whatever, but it could be they're impacted by pollution, or they're impacted by mold in the area or something. So if the air quality isn't good, the plants aren't going to be doing good. And if the plants aren't doing good, how are you going to do good? So it's something, just like, it's not an immediate deal breaker, but I would just avoid that as like at the very least a yellow flag. Yeah, so overall, so this place has vinyl, and the thing about vinyl is it's not the worst. Vinyl is like basically kind of a plasticky material, and it will off gas. It's not as bad as like freshly varnished wood, but I would try to avoid it. Additionally, if you do get particulates in the air for whatever reason, nothing sticks to vinyl. It's not like carpeting where it gets trapped in it. Nothing will stick with vinyl. So if you do get particulates in the air, it's just going to keep recirculating over and over again. So there's no way to like get stuff out of the air with this type of flooring. So it's not the worst thing. It is livable, but I would just try to avoid it. This is more examples of that streaking I was talking about earlier. Additionally, even if the wood flooring is safe, sometimes the wood cabinets might not be. There's like, with different types of wood surfaces, different types of varnish are used, so it's going to be totally different types of chemicals. Obviously, these cabinets are really shiny, so that's something that I would be careful of. I'm not really seeing any windows. It looks, here's a couple, but it just looks like a really cramped space. Yeah, and it's right on a main street, so that's obviously a no-go. So, if you see like one or two yellow flags, it's like, okay, it's maybe passable, but when you start to see multiple, you just gotta say, even if one of them isn't a hard deal breaker, when you have enough yellow flags, you gotta just pass on it. I would be careful of when the ceiling has like, when it's not a flat ceiling, when it's got like popcorn texture, something like that. Just be careful, because this textured material can I think fall off more easily. Yeah. Okay, next one. This I could tell is a bit of an older home. It's got radiator heating, which is good. The question here is, how well is everything like gonna be cleaned out? Like the basement that has the air that's feeding into the radiator, is there a bunch of mold down in there? I would guess more likely there is than not. So just something to be careful of. This I wanted to bring up because this has like that soft plush carpeting. I would probably stay away from that. Okay, so this is a really good example of these floors look really shiny to me. That does not look like a safe living environment. Additionally, like you can tell, some of the photos will have like paint buckets and stuff in them, and that's obviously clear indication of recent renovations, so stay away from those. This place looks all right. I don't like, if it's got like these replaceable ceiling tiles. The material can come off very easily, and also if there's anything above that ceiling surface, if there's something there that can leak down through the cracks, it's just kind of a red flag there. Yeah, so I'd be careful of that. I'm not sure what this wall is, if it's like a wallpaper or something. It does have central air, unfortunately, but overall, this place doesn't look too bad. Let's see if we scroll down a little bit. Yeah, so like when I see pictures where the streaking is quite a bit sharper, that picture wasn't coming up here. Like when it's got these sharp streak, like I can tell there's going to be some particulates when it's got like sharp streaks like that. That's almost always the case, especially with the really new modern places. Yeah, I would avoid like really packed in like apartment buildings. I would try to find like getting an entire floor of a house. Like that's probably the best way to go, so that you don't have neighbors next to you and you could kind of clear out the air. So like ideally you want an apartment that's like an air tunnel where it's got windows on each side that you can open up windows on one side, let the air in, open the window on the other side, and it just pushes out all the crap that's in the air and it just moves it out of the apartment so that you can get really good ventilation, clear everything out, and kind of reset the air quality in your living space. So those are the best style apartments. If you've got a really big building, a lot of times the windows are only on one side. So just be aware of how many windows there are and what the airflow is in that living space. Obviously, you want to look for a balcony like this. This is great to have one. But yeah, this is still in a really dense city area. But it's really close to the water, which is nice, or at least it's not too far. But you've got a highway in between you and the water, so you're kind of defeating the purpose of being near the water when you're that close to a highway. So be careful of that. And I think that's pretty good. I think we went through a lot of examples. Just looking to see what else. Oh, this is great. So this place right near the water, I love that. That looks awesome. There's a lot of wood in this. This looks like a bit of an older place. I feel like I would probably have an issue with this wood here. There's probably a smell to that. But the location of this looks awesome. I love that. And lastly, just be careful of places like this with that matte white paint. That's the biggest red flag. It's kind of hard to tell the exact color here, but if you get close to the wall, kind of run your hand across it. Does it have like that gritty feeling, or is it like really smooth? If it's got that gritty feeling, then you're at high risk of having particulates in the air. I mean, it's pretty much going to be a guarantee. So yeah, you want to avoid that. So I think that's pretty good. I just want to say, if you guys have any questions on a living space that you're looking into, feel free to leave a comment in the comment section and I'll be happy to respond and share any information I have on things that you might need to avoid. And in this last section, we're going to be looking at a couple of examples of apartments that I had stayed in where I was able to heal and feel better, and what an example of a positive place looks like. Here are two examples of living spaces that I was able to heal in, even with chronic illness. So these were conducive areas. The first one, so this has the short, firm carpeting that I said, very easy to wash, very easy to clean, and it basically acts as a giant air filter for your entire living space. So the walls are slightly off-white, but there's a bit of a gloss to them, so there wasn't any particulates really coming off of that, I don't think. It's got the flooring in the kitchen is kind of a vinyl look to it, but it's right near the door and easy to air out, and there wasn't any smell coming off of that. It's got like ceramic tile type material in the bathroom, but it's very old. It was put in like 50 years ago, so any construction from that is like totally gone from the area. And just overall, it's a very simple living space that I was able to improve. And it was on a third floor. It was right next to a reservoir, and the apartment is set up that when you open this door to the outside, it's almost like a giant window where it helps just funnel all the air right through. So this was a conducive space for me. The second one that I'd like to show you is a bit different. So this one has wood flooring and wood trim, and I thought I would have a problem with this because I generally have a problem with wood, but I don't know if you can see, the wood surface is really worn down. So there's almost like there's no varnish on the surface at all. It's really just the exposed wood. It's really worn down. And this was in a place where the person living here was keeping it very, very clean for a long time. So you're not getting off-gassing from the wood. There wasn't mold because it was well maintained. And yeah, so and it's got a lot of large windows. It's up on a higher floor, and surprisingly enough, like, it doesn't look super clean, but if it does look everything really nice, neat, and clean, you probably have something modern, something recently renovated. You need something a bit worn in, that it doesn't have new materials, new off-gassing, that the air in the living space is well cleared out. So these are two examples of places that did work for me and where I did get better. So it is possible to find them. It is difficult because most places are not conducive to good health, but these, I just want to show you and prove that they exist and you can find them. Well, that's all I have for today. Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, and share the video. And if you're interested, you could take a look at the previous video I posted where I talk about the mechanism of chronic illnesses if you haven't seen that already. Take care.